Have you ever stared at your fruit tree in the middle of summer, wondering why there are only 5 tiny, sad-looking apples hanging from the branches? You watered it. You waited patiently. So, what went wrong? Today, we are talking about the ultimate secret to doubling your fruit tree harvest. And I will give you a massive spoiler right now. The secret does not happen in the summer. It does not even happen in the spring when the flowers are blooming. If you wait until you see those beautiful pink and white blossoms, you are already too late. Today, we are going to dive into the 4 critical actions you absolutely must take before your fruit trees even think about waking up. We are going to debunk a massive myth that is secretly destroying your harvest year after year. By the end of this video, you will know exactly how to turn that lazy tree into a heavy-producing machine. Are you ready to completely change the way you look at your garden? Let me know in the comments right now. Do you usually prune your trees in the fall, the winter, or the spring? Pick a side, because we are about to shake things up. To truly understand why these early steps are so vital, we need to travel back in time and look at how commercial orchards have operated for centuries. For hundreds of years, master growers knew that a tree is basically a living battery. During the warm months, it uses its leaves like solar panels to collect energy, but during the freezing winter months, the tree pulls all of that precious energy down into its roots. It goes into a deep sleep, completely shutting down its above-ground operations to survive the cold. This state is called dormancy. This dormant phase is the absolute perfect window of opportunity for us. It is the only time we can perform heavy maintenance without shocking the tree. Pests and diseases are also sleeping right now, hiding in plain sight. If we strike while the tree is asleep, we can completely eliminate the competition before the growing season even begins. Think of it like tuning up a race car before the big race starts. You do not wait until the engine is running at 200 miles per hour to change the oil. You do it in the quiet of the garage. Let us dive right into the very first logical step, which actually starts on the ground. You might think the tree itself is your only priority right now, but look down. What do you see around the trunk? If you see fallen leaves, broken twigs, and those nasty, shriveled-up, mummified fruits from last year, you're looking at a ticking time bomb. Many people believe that leaving dead leaves and rotten fruit around the base of the tree is a great natural way to create compost. This is a massive myth. In reality, you are just building a cozy winter hotel for pests and fungal spores. Diseases like apple scab and brown rot overwinter right there in that debris. When the spring rains come, those spores will splash right back up onto your fresh, new buds. Your tree is infected before it even has a chance to bloom. So, your absolute first step is a ruthless cleanup. Grab a rake and clear everything away from the drip line of the canopy. Bag up those old mummified fruits and get them far away from your garden. Do not put them in your regular compost pile unless it gets incredibly hot. Imagine you are preparing a clean operating room before a surgery. That is exactly how clean the ground under your fruit trees should be before the spring awakening. This simple act of sweeping up the past can literally cut your pest problems in half this year. Now that the operating room is clean, it is time for the surgery. I am talking about pruning. But not just any pruning. This is the structural winter cut. The biggest mistake beginners make is being too gentle They snip a few tips and call it a day. But if you want a massive harvest, you need to be bold. The goal here is to remove anything that is dead, diseased, or damaged. After that, you must look for branches that are crossing and rubbing against each other. When branches rub in the wind, they create open wounds in the bark. Those wounds are open doors for disease. You also need to brutally remove water sprouts. These are those perfectly straight branches shooting straight up into the sky. They grow incredibly fast, but here is the sad truth. They almost never produce fruit. They are just energy vampires sucking nutrients away from the branches that actually do the hard work. Cut them off, right at the base. By removing these useless branches before the tree wakes up, you are forcing the tree to redirect all of its stored root energy into the remaining fruit-bearing branches. You are literally reprogramming the tree to focus on reproduction instead of useless leaf growth. Do not be afraid to take off up to 20% of the canopy. Let us talk a little more deeply about how exactly you should shape the tree during this pruning phase. Have you ever heard of the open center technique? This is a total game changer for peaches, plums, and cherries. Imagine your tree is shaped like a giant martini glass. You want the center of the tree to be completely open to the sky. Why do we do this? Sunlight. Sunlight is the ultimate ingredient for sweet, giant fruit. If the center of your tree is crowded with a tangled mess of branches, the fruit growing on the inside will never see the sun. It will be small, green, and sour. Furthermore, an open center allows the wind to blow right through the middle of the canopy. This constant air circulation dries off the morning dew very quickly. Fungal diseases absolutely hate dry environments. They need wet leaves to survive and spread. So, by simply letting the wind and the sun into the heart of your tree, you are creating a naturally hostile environment for disease. A classic rule of thumb used by old orchard masters is that you should be able to throw your hat right through the center of the tree without it hitting a single branch. Keep that image in your mind the next time you hold your pruning shears. So, you have pruned your tree and it looks beautiful. But wait, you have just created dozens of fresh cuts all over the branches. Should you run to the store and buy that black, sticky pruning paint to seal the wounds? Stop right there. This is another massive myth that we need to bust right now. For decades, people painted over pruning cuts, thinking they were acting like a band-aid to keep bugs out. But modern science has proven that this actually causes far more harm than good. When you paint over a fresh cut, you are trapping moisture underneath the seal. You are actually creating the perfect dark, damp environment for rot to destroy the wood from the inside out. Trees have been healing themselves for millions of years. They have a brilliant natural defense system. When you make a clean cut with sharp tools, the tree naturally forms a protective barrier of specialized cells that seals off the wound completely on its own. Your only job is to make sure your tools are incredibly sharp and sterilized with rubbing alcohol before you make the cuts. Let the fresh air and the sunshine do the rest of the healing. Trust the tree, it knows exactly what it is doing. Now we move to the second major action. It is time for chemical warfare, but in the safest, most organic way possible. We are talking about the dormant oil spray. Even if you cannot see them, millions of tiny pest eggs are hiding in the microscopic cracks and crevices of your tree bark right now, Aphids, scale insects, and spider mites have spent the whole winter clinging to the wood, just waiting for the first warm day to hatch and start eating your future fruit. You cannot poison eggs easily, but you can suffocate them. Horticultural oil mixed with water is sprayed over every single inch of the bare branches. The oil coats the eggs and the sleeping insects in a thin film, cutting off their oxygen supply. They simply never wake up. The brilliant part about doing this before the tree blooms is that there are absolutely no bees or beneficial insects around to get hurt. You are only targeting the bad guys who are hiding on the bark. The timing is critical here. You must apply the oil when the temperatures are above freezing, but strictly before the buds start to swell and show green tissue. If you spray oil on open leaves, you will burn them to a crisp. Timing is your greatest weapon. Right alongside the oil spray comes the battle against the invisible fungus. This is where copper fungicide enters the chat. Have you ever seen peach leaves get all bubbly, red, and deformed early in the spring? That is a nightmare called peach leaf curl. Or maybe you have seen ugly black spots ruining your apples. That is apple scab. Both of these are caused by fungi that overwinter on the bark and branches. By spraying a liquid copper fungicide heavily over the entire tree before it wakes up, you are creating a toxic shield against these spores. It literally turns the tree a faint shade of blue. When the early spring rains arrive, instead of activating the fungal spores, the water activates the copper, completely destroying the disease before it can even touch the new buds. Just like the oil spray, this must be done while the tree is completely bare. If you mix the dormant oil and the copper spray together, which many organic gardeners do, you create an absolute fortress around your tree in a single afternoon. Just imagine spraying a liquid armor over your future harvest. It is one of the most satisfying and productive things you can do on a cold, late winter day. Let us shift gears to something that sounds completely crazy but is actually brilliant. Action number 3 involves painting the trunk of your tree. Yes, you heard me correctly. Painting it white. If you drive past commercial orchards in the late winter, you will often see the bottom half of every single tree painted bright white. Many people assume this is to stop ants or crawling bugs. That is a myth. The real reason is temperature control. In the late winter and early spring, the sun can get surprisingly hot during the day. The dark brown bark of the tree absorbs that heat, tricking the tree into thinking spring has officially arrived. The sap starts flowing upwards, but then the sun goes down and a massive freezing frost hits in the middle of the night. That flowing sap literally freezes, expands, and blows the bark right off the tree. This is called sun scald, and it can easily kill a young fruit tree. By painting the trunk with a simple mixture of half water and half white interior latex paint, you are reflecting the sun away. The trunk stays cool during the day, keeping the tree safely asleep until the real, consistent spring weather finally arrives. It is a cheap, genius life insurance policy for your orchard. Action number 4 is all about the soil, and this is where most people get extremely lazy. You need to hydrate the sleeping giant. Because the tree has no leaves, people assume it does not need water during the winter or early spring. This is a fatal assumption. Winter drought is a silent killer. If your region has not received much rain or snow over the winter months, the root zone might be completely bone dry. When the tree finally tries to wake up and push out thousands of beautiful blossoms, it needs an immense amount of water pressure to do so. If the soil is dry, the blossoms will be weak, and they will simply fall off the branches before they can ever form fruit. You must check the soil moisture right now. Dig down about 6 inches near the edge of the canopy. If it feels dusty and dry, grab your hose immediately. Give the entire root zone a deep, slow, soaking drink of water. Do this on a day when the temperature is safely above freezing. Giving the tree a massive reserve of hydration before the stressful blooming period begins is like giving an athlete a giant bottle of water right before they run a marathon. Do not let your trees run the spring marathon while they are dehydrated. While we are thinking about the soil, we absolutely must discuss feeding the tree. But beware of the nitrogen trap. This is a mistake that costs gardeners thousands of pounds of fruit every single year. In the early spring, people rush to the store and buy the cheapest, most generic bag of fertilizer they can find. Usually, this fertilizer is packed with massive amounts of nitrogen. Nitrogen is fantastic for making grass grow thick and green, but for a fruit tree, heavy nitrogen is a disaster. If you dump heavy nitrogen on your tree right before it blooms, the tree will panic. It will say to itself, "Wow, look at all this fuel for leaves. I am going to skip making fruit this year and just grow 10 feet of useless green leaves instead." You will end up with a gorgeous giant leafy tree with absolutely zero fruit on it. Instead, you need to focus on phosphorus and potassium. These are the elements that promote strong root growth, beautiful flower development, and huge sugary fruit. Look for organic fruit tree fertilizers or add a thick layer of rich, well-aged compost around the base. Feed the soil ecosystem gently, and it will reward you with fruit, not just a mountain of green leaves. To wrap up our soil preparation, we have to talk about the final defensive layer, mulching. Mulch is the magical blanket that keeps moisture in the ground and prevents aggressive weeds from stealing nutrients away from your tree roots. But there is a very specific, strict way to apply it. I call it the donut method. When you spread your wood chips or organic straw around the base of the tree, you must leave a gap of bare soil right next to the actual trunk. The mulch should look like a giant donut with the tree trunk in the empty center hole. If you pile the mulch high against the bark, creating a volcano shape, you are making a massive mistake. Wet mulch resting against the trunk will cause the bark to rot, inviting diseases and providing a perfect hiding spot for mice and voles, who will literally chew the bark off your tree under the cover of the mulch. Spread the mulch out wide, all the way to the edge of the branches, but keep it a few inches away from the trunk itself. This simple donut trick locks in all that water you just provided, slowly feeds the soil, and keeps the bark healthy and dry. And there you have it. The ultimate plot twist of gardening is that the hardest, most productive work you will ever do for your fruit trees happens when they look completely dead. By cleaning the ground, boldly pruning for sunlight, applying protective organic sprays, managing the trunk temperature, and feeding the soil correctly, you are setting the stage for an explosive spring. You are no longer just hoping for a good harvest. You are systematically engineering a double yield. When your neighbors are wondering why their trees are failing, you will be out in the yard carrying buckets, overflowing with fresh, sweet fruit. Thank you so much for hanging out and learning with me today. If you found these secrets helpful, please hit that subscribe button and give this video a big thumbs up so we can keep making more content for you. Now, I have a question for you to answer in the comments. Which of these 4 steps are you going to do first in your garden this weekend? Let us get a conversation going down below. See you in the next video, and happy growing!